I've known Dallas for, I don't know how long time. Um, but we've been blessed by Dallas's ministry at Fellowship Greenville there. He has mentored a few of our kids, and it's just been a blessing to us. So this is Dallas Greenaway. He'll tell you more about himself and about his family. I know he has a picture to show here in just a minute.
And real humans that are here too. So, hey, I am Dallas Greenaway. I do hail from right down the street at Fellowship Greenville, which I know some of you guys came over from Fellowship as well. And I've been at Fellowship, I guess, since the first song that we sang came out. So I was in the 6th grade, which maybe I shouldn't be aging myself right now as far as telling you how young I am. I don't know. Or maybe how old I am. Maybe either side could be a bad thing. But I was in the 6th grade, and I grew up Catholic. My family kind of moved around. I say we did a tour of the Southeast where we started in Columbia. That's why being a Gamecock is my burden to bear, okay? Both of my parents went to USC. You can't change where you were born and what you were born into, all right? So sorry, Clemson fans, that this is what you get this morning, okay? But what? Sam's like Virginia Tech, which doesn't matter anywhere. Maybe to you, sir, it must matter. But I'm from Columbia, and then we kind of moved around. Dad's job just changing multiple times throughout our early years of life, and so went to Boca Raton, Florida, which, does anybody know what Boca Raton means? The mouth of the rat, okay? What a great place to live. And yet apparently it's the spot to be. I think it's grown a lot since we've been down there, but moved very quickly out of there to Birmingham, Alabama, okay? So maybe I should have picked up the whole Roll Tide thing there. It'd be happier days for me as a football fan, but I didn't. And then we moved to Atlanta. We were in Duluth, Georgia, if you're familiar with that. If you've driven down to Atlanta, you've probably passed right through it. And then we came to Greenville in 1999. And so my family, we were still Catholic. We went to St. Mary Magdalene's, the big Catholic church right there on Woodruff Road, when we first moved here. And then me and my sister, who I know some of you guys, the Davises, you guys know her a little bit, we started asking questions. My sister's about 2 years younger than me, and we started asking questions just as elementary kids going into 6th grade for me hey, I know that I'm not a great kid, and I kind of was. I was an okay kid as far as kids go, but I sensed even early on, hey, my bad outweighs my good, and especially as far as the Catholic Church, as far as what we felt like we were hearing from the Catholic Church, this system of checks and balances, that if your good deeds don't outweigh your bad deeds, then you're on your way to hell. It's kind of how we were interpreting things. It was a very works-based perception of God and of what the Bible was teaching about God. And so I saw God as extremely controlling, because if I was going to throw away all my bad deeds and only do the good things, then that meant that God was going to have me either be a nun, which I understood I couldn't do that, okay? I guess now you can. You can do whatever you want. But, or I would have to be a priest, and I was like, I kind of like the idea of being married. So we're not going to do that. And the only real experience I had with priests in my life at the time was they were just not super kind to kids. And I don't know why that was, but that shaped my perception of how I saw God. As if he is for me, then he wants to just control my life on one side. On the other side, I saw God as extremely angry. Because if he's for me, if he's real, and he wants to control my life, I knew at that point that he didn't have control of my life, and so he must be really, really angry with me. And so me and my sister started asking questions about God and about our faith and about the Catholic Church, all the things that we were hearing. And my parents, who my mother had grown up Catholic, my father had grown up Lutheran, they didn't really know how to respond. I think that they would tell you at this point that they were more nominal believers, that they were more nominal Catholic or nominal Lutheran, and they hadn't really owned or developed a relationship with God for themselves. And so as we started asking these difficult questions, my parents said, hey, we're going to take a break from church, all right? Which maybe is not a smart thing, but that's what they did. And somewhere along the line, God had already started orchestrating things. My family still lives in the same house, or my parents live in the same house, I should say. We're not all in the same house with them. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we're just not. I don't know that we could fit. But over the years, as these things had led up to this breaking point for us with the church, there was the family, the Johnsons, Tim and Kathy Johnson, and they had moved into our neighborhood, and Tim was an elder at Fellowship Greenville. And so Fellowship Greenville does this thing, not quite every year, but almost every year for Christmas, called Jingle Jazz. And how many of you have ever been to Jingle Jazz? Okay, so some of you have been there. Maybe you've heard of it. If not, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's jazzy Christmas things. It's a Christmas show. And we went. I say I need to be the poster boy for Jingle Jazz, okay? Because the idea was, hey, this isn't just for our church, but invite your friends. It's an easy, it's not a Sunday morning thing. There's going to be no sermon. It's just fun for the sake of fun around Christmas time. And my family went to the very first Jingle Jazz, and the Lord started to develop relationships. It was there that I met the youth pastor at the time, which blew my mind that somebody could be considered a holy man, or a holy woman for that matter, and wasn't just wearing robes. Right? Remember, I thought if God was going to have control of my life, that it was going to be in the form of a nun or in the form of a priest. And Jason Malone, who's now back at Fellowship, he's not a nun or a priest, and he doesn't wear the robes, at least that I've seen, okay? Maybe he has a nice bathrobe, I don't know. But so that started a journey when I was in 6th grade of just seeing that, hey, maybe God really is for somebody like me. Maybe God really is for somebody who's messed up, and realizes some of the weight of their sin, even just a little bit of it in the mind of a 6th grade kid. Maybe God's not so controlling. Maybe he actually wants freedom for me. Maybe God's not actually angry with me. He's just inviting me into more for life. He just wants more for me. He wants the best for me. And so, again, that kind of started a journey. If I started coming to Fellowship in the 6th grade, I would say that it really was 8th grade after hearing, I kind of describe it as like little drops of grace. I can't tell you a single message that was like, oh, this is when it clicked. I know some people can. Maybe you can if you're in this room. But it was just drops of grace over time, whether from main service teachings, which my parents were faithful to take us to, or from youth group settings, which we were there every Sunday morning. We had like a youth group Bible study kind of thing. And every Wednesday night, we had the whole youth programming and gathering with all the middle schoolers and high schoolers. And just over time, the Lord softened my heart. And I finally surrendered to him when I was 14 years old. And so from really middle school on, I really at first, I wanted the job that my youth pastors had. I was like, well, shoot, you get to hang out with kids, you get to eat pizza, you get to have fun, you get to do all these. This doesn't even seem like real work. And so I was like, man, I want to have that life. Whatever they have, that's what I want. And later on, I connected the dots that it wasn't just the job they had, or the people they get to spend time with, but it was Jesus, it was the Holy Spirit living in their heart that I was so attracted to. And so when the Lord brought me to a place of submitting to him, I realized, hey, maybe there's actually something in here, and I started to discover more of a call to ministry than just I want that job because I think it would be really fun. And so flash forward, ended up going to North Greenville. So I went to North Greenville and graduated in 2013. That's where I met my wife, Brittany. So we've got family. Will you just raise your hand, just show everybody? Okay, there you go. She hates this. Yeah, Samuel, you too. Thank you. Weston, baby of 6 weeks. Okay, there you go. Thank you, buddy. This is where I'll bring up the picture of my family so you can all see them instead of from across the room. So that's us in the hospital on... I guess that was on Memorial Day when Weston was born. So that was later in the day, obviously. And Weston was born just 6 weeks ago on the 25th of May. So we've got Weston, we've got Owen, who is our blonde 8-year-old. We've got Samuel, who's right there with me. And then Brittany's in the middle. And so Brittany and I met at North Greenville. She was from North Carolina. I brought her into the true Carolina, and now she lives here. So yeah, that's just a little picture of our family. And right now, so I went straight from North Greenville onto full-time staff at Fellowship Greenville, and have done high school stuff, middle school stuff, and now I get to be the student pastor over there, which is a lot of fun. And I still spend the most of my time with middle schoolers, okay? So here's what I would love from you today. I just need this for my soul, okay? Because the older I get, it does get a little bit harder. I love middle schoolers, but could you just give me like a bless your heart on the count of 3, okay, for spending so much time with middle schoolers? 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Okay. The Lord just knew I needed that for my soul. Okay. No, but I love middle schoolers. I'm a big kid at heart. And so they're fun. Yes, they're awkward. Yes, it is survival mode. But I think in many ways, because of what God did in my story as a middle schooler, I can see some level of hope. And hey, there's purpose in the midst of these trials and in survival mode, and that God actually has something for you as a middle schooler, not just once you survive it and get out of it, or once you just get on to college or adulthood and real life. Like, God's got something for them there, and so I love spending time with them. So that's a little bit about me. If we haven't met yet, which I know some of you guys have been to Fellowship, maybe you were at Fellowship before you came here as RLF has started. Some of you were in our student ministry for a few years, and some of you may have had kids who were in our student ministry for several years. And so, but catch up with me. If we haven't met and you got questions about me or the family, come say hey. I don't think we want everybody holding the baby, but come by and see how cute he is. And yeah, I mean, he's actually a pretty good baby, so where's some wood to knock on? He's sleeping well and all that kind of stuff, as well as he could as a 6-week-old. So here's where we're going to be this morning. I'm jumping in with you guys into this Ecclesiastes series, and so I'm not closing out the series, but I'm going to give you the first part, the first 8 verses of Ecclesiastes chapter 12. So if you will, if you've got your Bibles, you can turn there to Ecclesiastes chapter 12. We're going to be in verses 1 through 8. So here we've got a look, and Sam for the last couple weeks, he did a great job. I listened to the last few messages of talking about, hey, how the gifts that God has given us, we should enjoy them and not make them gods in themselves or make them God things, but if we can enjoy them and have gratitude for God for those things, then man, putting those in their proper place, God actually has given us the things in life, imagine that, to enjoy them, right? But we turn back thankfulness to him. And then I think last week Sam covered, hey, this, how do you exist in life under the sun, in light of the sun, I like that little phrase, with the tensions of life. Like, how do you deal with the hardships of life, but also the joys of life? And that oftentimes, I think within the Christian heart, that we have to exist with both of those. There's things we can be really thankful and grateful for, but oftentimes at the same time, there's things that are really hard and really heavy and really difficult about life. And yet, praise be to God who is with us through all of those things, the ups and the downs. And now this week, as we look in these 8 verses from Ecclesiastes chapter 12, we're going to see, and please don't shoot the messenger, okay? This is just me bringing the message. But we're going to see this poem that Solomon has written that really kind of speaks to and gives some metaphors for mostly the end of life. All right? He starts to talk about things again, or he doesn't start to. He kind of finishes talking about things as like seasons. And so if you think about your life, and we'll do it in just a second, but I'll give you a minute here to think before I throw up this picture. But if you think about your life in terms of seasons, and I'm talking, we'll start spring, summer, fall, and winter, right? Spring, summer, fall, and winter. If you were to put yourself in, hey, this is the season of life I'm in, how would you describe that? That's not necessarily for you to raise your hand and shout out, but maybe you make a note in your journal if you're a note taker. Or just kind of thinking in your head, if you were to pick one of these 4 seasons, which season would you find yourself in? Let's go ahead, tech team, and throw up that picture of the seasons. There you go. There's some little image for you of each one. Do you find yourself in spring, which here's how we'll kind of describe spring in a nutshell, that it's new beginnings and new life. That summer is busyness and growth. You've always kind of got things going, always staying on the move. That fall is maybe some change and transition, thinking about the changing of the leaves. And then winter is cold and quiet and maybe for a time of reflection. Now, admittedly, there's a lot of different ways that you could see the seasons of life. I mean, if you think about just your family, you could probably put your family in certain seasons. And over the course of time, you could see yourself maybe moving through those, maybe even find yourself cycling back through all 4 seasons at some point. If you think about a business and you've started the business, you've kind of seen it maybe move from spring into summer and maybe beyond, or maybe in its own way, it's gone through different changes and iterations and kind of looped back around to some seasons. I think, interestingly enough, one of the things that Solomon is getting at here in Ecclesiastes 12 is that really you can see all of life kind of break down into these 4 seasons. That in our early years, that there's lots of firsts, that there's big dreams, that there's decisions that we're starting to make. There's literal new life. I mean, I look at my boys, again, 8, 6, and 6 weeks, and man, they are in the spring of life. Like, life for them is just beginning. Everything is a first. I mean, little Weston, we did fireworks last night, and he didn't see any of them because he was just asleep, and we had these headphones on, and somehow he didn't pop an eye open the whole time. But that was his first fireworks. He's experiencing all of these for the first time. Maybe summer is as you get a little bit older into teenage years or early adulthood, and it's the busy years. It's where things are going. It's where maybe even as you get into adulthood, you get married, you start work, you have kids, and responsibilities seem nonstop. They're just piling on. And then for fall, which again, think about yourself and which of these seasons you're in, but things begin to change. And kids leave, sometimes for better or worse. Some of you maybe are so excited about empty nesting and the season that you may find yourself in. But you miss them at the same time, but your roles start to shift. Maybe you even start to move more from a parent into a grandparent. But all the while you're kind of sensing like, hey, strength isn't what it used to be. And then in the winter, that's when maybe the strength not being what it used to be really starts to set in for some of us. Again, please don't shoot the messenger, okay? But these are the later years, and there's oftentimes health challenges. There's losses of friends and family. Maybe just saying goodbye to a career that you loved. And there's a lot more looking back at that time in life, in the winter years of life, than there is looking ahead. So 2 questions for us, and then we'll jump into our passage here in a second. When you identify the season that you're in, within that season, what story are you living into? Are you living into your own story, like trying to do your best to just make the most of that season that you find yourself in and not waste it, whatever wasting looks like in your own words? Or are you living into the Creator's story? The one who created like the literal seasons that we get to pass through every year, and the one who created you and gave you life and knew everything that you would encounter in its due time and in its season in your life. Are you living into your own story, or are you living into God's story? And then the second question, are you living as if this season that you're in will last forever, or are you keeping in mind the big picture? Hey, this life, as much as it is a blessing that God's given us, there is a reality that it's only for a certain amount of time. Or again, are you living like this season, it lasts forever? So I don't need to prepare. I don't need to think about the next season. I don't need to think about the season after that next season. Or are you living as if, in a sense, winter really is coming? It changes how you live. Within each season that you find yourself in, there's also temptations that come with it. There's good things, there's positive things, there's things that the Lord has, but there's things that we're tempted with. If you're in the spring, one of the things that you might be tempted with is to say, hey, I'll get to that God stuff later. Like, I'll be serious about that. Like, let me enjoy all these new things. Whatever the thing is that you'd fill the blank in with, let me just do this thing, and then I'll get to the God stuff later. I'll get serious about that at some point. And some of the temptation is to say, hey, I'm too busy to remember God. Like, we've got all these things, all these plates that are spinning. And I mean, isn't this, like, God's given me all these things, so I got to make sure that I am rightly responsible for them, right? I'll focus on Him when life slows down. Maybe in the fall and winter, the temptation is to say, hey, my best years are gone. They're behind me. I'm not really sure what God can use me for now. And the reality is those aren't the only temptations that we can face in those different seasons, but man, those are some big ones that I know I've even seen myself in, especially I would identify myself as somebody who's in the summer of my life. And there's times when it's easy to say, hey, no, we're just so busy. That's why we didn't make this thing that we know God's calling us into as much of a priority as it should be. On top of this, we live in a world that's not great at talking about the seasons of life, admittedly. We live in a world that's far more focused on get what you can right now as quick as you can and hold on to it and make it last and chase the fountain of youth and always be busy, because if you're always busy, then you're always productive and you're always doing something. And the world loves those things. Stay as beautiful as you can for as long as you can, because isn't that how success is found? Like in how you look, making sure that you keep up strength and keep up appearance and what you do and what you have. Stay busy, stay productive. Isn't that what all of life is about? That seems to often be the word that the world gives to us. So here's the tension. Is life just about squeezing as much pleasure out of each season? Is it about trying hard to be a generally good person? Or is there another way? Hint, there is. One where we live life under the sun, but in light of the sun, and let our Creator shape how we live each season of life. That's actually the big idea for this morning. I'm going to put it up there a couple times, and hopefully it kind of starts to just kind of be pounded into our hearts. But here's the big idea, that living life under the sun, so as we're here living life on the earth, but in light of the sun, in light of Jesus, that should mean for us that we let our Creator shape how we live each season of life, no matter what the season is that you find yourself in. So, I told you we would, we will, we're going to now. We're going to read these 8 verses together. So again, Ecclesiastes chapter 12, it'll be on the screen. You can find it in your own Bibles as well. Here we go from the words of Solomon. He says, "Remember also your Creator in the days of your youth, before the evil days come and the years draw near, of which you will say, I have no pleasure in them. Before the sun and the light and the moon and the stars are darkened, and the clouds return after the rain. In the day when the keepers of the house tremble, and the strong men are bent, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those who look through the windows are dimmed. And the doors on the street are shut when the sound of the grinding is low, and one rises up at the sound of a bird, and all the daughters of song are brought low. They are afraid also of what is high, and terrors are in the way. The almond tree blossoms, the grasshopper drags itself along, and desire fails, because man is going to his eternal home, and the mourners go about the streets. Before the silver cord is snapped, or the golden bowl is broken, or the pitcher is shattered at the fountain, or the wheel broken at the cistern, and the dust returns to the earth as it was, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher, all is vanity." So we're going to look through these and kind of talk about them in 3 pieces, all right? So that way you know, you can track with me about these 3 pieces, and you'll know when we're wrapping up and where we're at in the message. So first piece is going to be this, that remember your Creator in your spring and summer. So remember your Creator in your youth. Face fall and winter with your Creator at the center. If you want to make the most of those seasons, that we keep God at the center of them. And then that we don't waste, here's the third kind of movement or third piece of this message, that we don't waste any season, but we let God shape how we live now. And all of it, again, is under our big idea of living under the sun and light of the sun means letting our Creator shape how we live each season of life. Now, admittedly, there's some things in there. How many of you love poetry? Does anybody love poetry? Yeah, I feel like it's a dying breed, okay? I think there's like maybe 4 hands. Yeah, sorry, guys. Well, let's forget this passage then, because it is a poem of winter, okay? And if you're like me, sometimes metaphors really connect, but I do not think in metaphors, okay? And I definitely don't think in poems. Like I remember being in middle school and high school, and we'd read poems in school, and some girl on the other side of class would have some incredible insight about how it connects to all of life, and I'd be like, where, like, are you reading something different, right? So we'll get to the really poetic side of this passage in just a moment, but let's read and focus on the first verse there from Ecclesiastes 12. So the first part of this verse, remember also your Creator in the days of your youth, okay? So the Bible uses remember here in a deeper way than we usually do. It's not just about don't forget that God exists. It's also not just about, hey, when you wake up, make sure that you just throw up a prayer to God as soon as you get up and then go about the rest of your day. No, but remembering here, Solomon really has this in mind, that we would keep God at the center of our lives, that we would live all of life in light of who He is. How we wake up, yes, but also how we parent and how we grandparent and how we work, how we play, That all the things that we do in every season of life, that we would keep God at the center. Again, in our decisions, our desires, our relationships, our habits, that his way of life would be our way of life. That's what it means to remember our Creator. Again, not just to be like, oh, let me recite a verse for the day. But no, actually lining our life up with the life and rhythms of God. The word creator, if it's not already explained here, but it reminds us that we are not self-made. Like we haven't made this life for ourselves as much, again, as the world tells us. Like, hey, you can do your own thing. You can own your life. You can create your life. No, there is a creator God, and he's the one who's given us this life that we live. We're crafted by someone, and that someone has a purpose for us. To remember your Creator is to live as if your life is his and not your own. Again, kind of goes back to some of the questions we were drawing out at the beginning. In this season of life, are you living into a story that is of your own making or of God's? My whole family's leaving? That's not nice, guys. Samuel is the definition of a mama's boy. Okay, thank you, Owen. I appreciate that. Samuel is the definition of a mama's boy, and so he's got to go find her. The days of our youth here are not just for the teenage years, but it's a season of strength and openness. This is what we're calling, when it comes to the 4 seasons, these days of our youth would be the seasons of spring and of summer. And these are seasons where you decide, in a sense, whose garden your life will be. And you're choosing what to plant and who you're planting for. You don't have to be very old with this planting metaphor to see that, hey, habits that are formed in the spring and summer, that those are actually the things that will shape your fall and winter. That the things that you set early on are oftentimes the things that carry you later in life. So if you plant selfishness, you'll harvest loneliness. If you plant greed, you'll harvest anxiety, because you'll always be trying to hold on to it and accumulate more. If you plant a worship of work, you'll harvest or reap burnout eventually. But if you plant remembering your Creator, if you plant relationship with him, obedience to him, a love of him and others, you harvest a different kind of fall and winter. Ecclesiastes has spent chapters showing that work, pleasure, money, and even wisdom are empty if they're pursued under the sun, but you push God to the edge. So when Solomon gets to chapter 12 and he says, remember your Creator in the days of your youth, he's saying, don't learn that lesson at the end of your life. Learn it now, because that's going to save you some time. Contextually, Solomon would have likely been at the end of his days. He would have been in the winter season of life. And so take it from a guy who's speaking from experience. And maybe you've met people who have this same experience, or maybe you yourself have this experience. And as you look back over life, or they look back over life, as Solomon looks back over life, he's saying, hey, these are some of the things that I wish I knew then. I'm trying to impart to you now. Don't waste it away, but remember your Creator. And not just in a mental knowledge kind of remember, but actually obedience to him every single day, falling more in love with him every single day, loving others well every single day. So if you're in spring, these early years, they might look like remembering your Creator in these ways, building small daily habits that keep him at the center. Maybe like opening scripture before you open social media. Talking to God about decisions before you make them, seeking out older believers who will speak into your life. Like, sometimes I think we imagine, hey, it would be great if I had a guy like Solomon that I could go to and just ask the difficult questions of life. Wouldn't that be great? He could help me navigate. Well, man, here's an incredible insight. Is that as you look around this room, like we've got people who are Solomons in their own right. Don't puff me up. Okay, but there's some of you who have lived life and had so many life experiences, and you could write in some, maybe not as poetic, because only like 4 of you wrote or raised your hand for poetry, but you could write in your own words, hey, here's some wisdom that I have to pass on. So if you're in your spring or summer years and you're in this room, and there's folks who are in the fall or winter of life, why don't you get around them and ask them, hey, what should I be looking out for How should I be ordering my life? How can I make God, put him at the center and keep him there? We've got that right at our fingertips. If you're in summer, the busy middle years, remembering your Creator might look like refusing to let your schedule be the loudest voice in your life. Which, man, that's pretty difficult. In a culture, again, that says, hey, your worth is found in the things that you do. Your worth is found in being a part of everything. If you've had kids or have kids, hey, your worth is found in putting your kid in every possible sport at every moment of every day. Oh, and karate too, if that's a sport. And cheerleading, if that's a sport, right? And tuba. You have to do all the things or your kid's going to be a failure. It's like, well, if that's failure, then, or if that's success, then I'll just go for like mediocrity or something, right? Like, I don't want to put them in all the things. So don't let your schedule be the loudest voice in your life. It might mean saying no to some good things so that you can say yes to the best things, or say yes to God's things. It might just mean making space for time with God, time with his people, and space to listen and obey him. Again, the big idea is that living life under the sun, in light of the sun, means letting our Creator shape how we live each season of life. Maybe that gives you some things to run on to think through your spring or summer season of life. The second movement or piece of our message today, we're going to talk about fall and we're going to talk about winter. And this is where I don't want you to get upset with me, but it is what we're reading in the Bible. Okay, so let's examine. I'm not going to be able to hit everything from a poetic standpoint, but I don't want us to walk away being like, what in the gobbledygook was Solomon talking about, right? So I'm going to do my best to break down some of this poetic language as Solomon is talking about the winter season of life. And essentially, this is a poem that he is pointing directly to the end of life. He literally described it, which does not make it sound very fun, as evil days in verse 1, right? So he said, remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the evil days come, and the years draw near, of which you will say, I have no pleasure in them. Man, that makes me look forward to the winter, right? But Solomon is saying, no, it's not that they're evil because they're like evil or satanic or something, but man, they're just harder. They're just more difficult. Like, things are winding down. Things are not working like they used to. And so he uses this image of a town or a village and kind of goes through the different parts of a town or village. And those things are, in some way, shape, or form, I guess for the poetic mind, supposed to connect us to, oh, when he says that, he actually means this part of our body. When he says this thing, he means that part of our body. So let's talk about a few of those as we go through it. So, verse 2 says, before the sun and the light and the moon and the stars are darkened and the clouds return after the rain. So this idea that the moon and the stars, that everything is darkening, really just has to do with, hey, life is starting to come to a close. Like, things are starting to fade. Clarity isn't what it used to be. The time is winding down. Verse 3 says, in the day when the keepers of the house tremble and the strong men are bent. I mean, this really just means that our limbs, our bodies are starting to fail. Like, literally, that the strong men now are bent over. That the ones who used to be the strongest in the gym, they're no more. I don't know if you guys are familiar at all with this guy, Ronnie Coleman. He was like Mr. Universe bodybuilder dude. One of the strongest men to arguably ever walk the earth. And in his old age now, he has so many health issues and is completely bent over and twisted and almost looks deformed. Mostly has to ride around in a wheelchair now. But the strongest of us, even the greatest of us, winter comes for. So literally that our bodies just start to fail us. Let's keep going in verse 3. It says, and the grinders cease because they are few. You know what this one is pointing to? Yeah, our teeth. Isn't that encouraging? Man, I can't wait for winter. But as we get older, and I feel like the dentist is like reminding me of this every time I go to the dentist, right? Like, hey, you need to do this or your teeth are going to fall out early, right? It's not that bad. But yeah, your teeth get soft. You start to lose some. Like, I have a distinct memory of my pappy. He lived a day shy of 92. This is my dad's dad. He had the teeth in the cup on his bedside table, right? I've got distinct memories of that. That's what comes to my mind when I hear that the grinders cease. They don't work like they used to. What about this one? And those who look through the windows are dimmed. It's our eyes. It's like our soul is like looking out through the windows of our bodies, right? Which are our eyes, that our eyes are giving way. Again, don't shoot the messenger, please. It says, the doors on the street are shut when the sound of grinding is low. The one who rises up at the sound of a bird, and all the daughters of song are brought low. Here's kind of some of the things that it's talking about here. So one is talking about, hey, sleep isn't quite what it used to be. Like, I used to think, oh, well, as you get older, you just kind of learn to wake up earlier, right? But now as I'm understanding it, at least for a lot of people, no, it's just like the smallest little bird chirp gets you up in the morning, right? You can't sleep through the things like you used to, which is kind of scary for me because a trait of Greenaway men is that we can sleep anytime, anywhere, through anything, okay? But apparently even that will fail me in the winter months. So this idea that, hey, the sound of a bird, even at the littlest sound, it wakes us up. We can't sleep through it. But then also, hey, as much as it's like a paradox, right? A little sound wakes us up or kind of sets us off, but at the same time, we're losing our hearing as we get older. It says, hey, the songs of the daughters, they're low because you can't hear them singing as well anymore. But this is the winter months of life. It says they are afraid also of what is high, and terrors are in the way. The almond tree blossoms, the grasshopper drags itself along. What's this about? This idea that our confidence, our boldness, those things take a different shape as well. The whole apple tree blossoms, you know what that's about? Our hair. I keep looking and waiting for like some gray or white hairs to start shaping in my beard or in my hair. I know I'm going to end up being as white can be with the color of my hair. But that's the idea here, is that we end up getting gray and white hairs. The grasshopper starts dragging itself, again, pointing to our bodies. And desire fails because man is going to his eternal home, and the mourners go about the streets. Literally, that life is coming to an end. We're on our way to our eternal home. Which, man, that is something to be excited about when it comes to the winter, right? Verse 6, before the silver cord is snapped, or the golden bowl is broken, or the pitcher is shattered at the fountain, or the wheel broken at the cistern. That's literally, hey, all of these things are just breaking. That there's going to be a final moment, right? These things just don't work like they used to. And verse 7 says, and the dust returns to the earth as it was, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. A point back to Genesis, where God says, hey, from dust I formed you, and from dust you will return. That the winter months of life, this is how they end for all of us. And I know, as much as this may sound depressing, I also think it's incredibly helpful to remember these things. Another thing that our culture doesn't do well is talk about death. Talk about the coming death of those that we love. Talk about our own death. I think there's other groups of people around the world who do a better job of this. I think about some of our Hispanic friends who celebrate Dios de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. They remember those who've come before, and they remember the own frailty of their life. And as much as that may seem glum or depressing, like, it's a celebration for them because they in their minds, they know that, hey, but this isn't final. And they've got their own way of thinking about that. And I'm not saying we believe the same things that they do. But in some ways, that's what it's pointing to us to as well. A reminder that for those of us who are in Christ, this isn't all of life. This isn't the end. This isn't, in a sense, the final season. But also, as we are here, don't we want to make the most of the life that God has given us? So again, these verses aren't here to depress us. They're here to tell the truth. It's mercifully honest, this poem from Solomon. All of us have watched this happen to someone, our grandparents, parents, friends, or maybe even ourselves. Verse 8 says this, vanity of vanities, says the preacher, all is vanity. I think I skipped a page, I'm sorry. the teacher so describes aging and death to wake us up. He says, if you pretend winter doesn't exist, you will waste summer and spring. If you remember your Creator, you'll be able to face all of winter and fall with a different kind of hope. Facing death early is a kind of severe mercy. Like having it in view is a good thing. It frees you from building your whole life on things that death will eventually strip away. Things like career, reputation, comfort, and it pushes you towards the one thing winter can't erase, which is a life anchored in your Creator. If you're in fall or winter, this passage is for you. It gives you language for what you're going through. It says, God sees your shaking hands. He sees your dimming eyes. He sees your sleepless nights. He knows your limitations, and He's with you in all of them. Remembering your Creator in fall and winter might look like learning to lament honestly with God. Saying, Lord, I'm scared of losing my independence. Or God, I hate that my body isn't what it was. But then adding, but I trust that you are still my Creator and my shepherd in this season. It might mean, if you're in the fall or winter months of your life, it might mean asking, who can I bless in this season? Who can I encourage? Who can I pray for? Who can I share wisdom with? Or even if I can't do what I used to do, then what can I do right now? You are not retired from remembering your Creator or from being used by Him. Which again gets back to one of those temptations. Well, here I am in this later season of life. What could God possibly have for me? Or did I miss out on what He had for me in the past? No. If He's still got you breathing and moving, even to what extent you're moving, then He still has something here for you today. He's not done with you yet. As a church, living life under the sun and light of the sun means letting your Creator shape how you walk with these winter saints. Will you build a community where older believers are honored, listened to, and visibly valued, where they are not just tolerated, but they're treasured? And then our final section here, all seasons, no matter whether you're in spring, summer, fall, or winter, don't waste your life. Let God shape this season right now. Again, Solomon ends by saying, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. It's the teacher's word for life without God at the center. It means vapor or breath or mist, something that you chase that keeps slipping through your fingers. He begins the book with that word, and he ends it with that word to make a point. That if you live spring, summer, fall, and winter under the sun as if God were optional, you will reach winter and discover that so much of what you lived for was empty. But Ecclesiastes is not the last word of the Bible. God has addressed the problem of vanity and death by sending His Son, Jesus. Jesus steps into our seasons. He is born in a kind of spring, lives through the summers of ministry. He walks into the fall of rejection and dies the winter of the cross. And on the cross, He takes the weight of our God-forgetting, of our wasted seasons, of our self-centered living. He takes that all upon Himself. And in His resurrection, He opens a new kind of life where even winter is not the end of our story. So remembering your Creator now means remembering Him in the face of Jesus, trusting His grace, receiving His Spirit, and letting Him reorient your seasons around His kingdom. That's why our big idea matters. I'll say it one more time. That living under the sun and light of the sun means letting our Creator shape how we live with each season of life. It means living in spring and asking, Lord, how do you want me to shape my beginnings? If you're in the summer, saying, Lord, how do you want me to shape my busyness? In the fall, Lord, how do you want me to shape these changes and losses? And in winter, Lord, how do you want me to shape these remaining years? Let God shape how you live this season of life. Don't just wait for the next one. If you're in the spring, these are some final applications. What's one habit that you could start this week that says, my life belongs to my Creator? Maybe it's 5 minutes of prayer or scripture every morning. Maybe it's asking an older believer to mentor you. Or maybe it's saying no to a pattern of sin that you know will follow you into the next seasons if you don't deal with it now. Remember that idea of planting, and what you sow is what you will reap. If you're in the summer, maybe some application for you. What is one change to your calendar or priorities that would make room for God at the center again? Maybe it's setting a simple Sabbath rhythm. Maybe it's choosing to say no to one extra activity so you can say yes to time with God or with your family. If you're in the fall, what's one grief you need to bring honestly to God instead of numbing it or pretending that it isn't there? Maybe it's the loss of a role, the loss of a dream, or the reality of your changing body. Invite God into that grief instead of keeping him out. If you're in winter, who is one person you could encourage, pray for, or invest in this week? A younger believer, a grandchild, or a neighbor, or someone even in this church. You may not be able to do what you used to, but you can still plant seeds that will grow in someone else's spring and summer. Isn't that the way that the Bible often lays things out? That we would pass our faith on from one generation to the next. Then as a church, what is one way you can let your Creator shape this season? Maybe it's a renewed commitment of prayer together. Maybe it's a fresh focus on the next generation, or maybe it's a step of obedience in loving the area that you guys find yourself in here on Pelham Road in a tangible way. Let me give you a question you can carry into the week, and then I'll pray us out. Am I living this season under the sun, in light of the sun, letting my Creator shape how I live, or am I just letting the season happen to me? I think that's a question worth us asking no matter what season we find ourselves in.